Hello, everybody. Today we've got the best case scenario for the Republicans in the upcoming Senate elections. We already took a look at the Democrats, and this is going to be the best reasonable case scenario for the GOP. Anybody could come up with something completely outlandish where they sweep almost every state. This is not that. This is going to assume it's a red wave type of result. We've already seen great early vote numbers for the Republicans. We're going to assume that keeps up across other states. And then on election day, Republicans don't let off the gas. They get the independents. They do well in the suburbs. They get a lot of the late breakers, etc. But this is difficult to fill out. I try to consider the specific candidates, the campaigns, the states, the electorate, the issues, the coattails from presidential candidates, and of course the polling. Now, since we've gotten really close to election day, the polling is going to matter a lot more than it did a couple of months ago, but you still can't put everything on polling. There's also going to be a little bit of a gut reaction on some of these states. So let's go through this and start filling out the safe states, and these are going to be 10 or more point margins. For the Democrats, even in a great night for the GOP, they're still going to easily hold Hawaii, Washington, and California. If Steve Garvey got it down to about a 16-point loss there, I would say he ran a great campaign. Then we're going to go to Minnesota. This is Amy Klobuchar and Royce White. White is going to be a little bit too controversial to make this seat competitive, but I also likely expect Klobuchar to have the closest race of her career. So you could argue that maybe it gets down to just under 10 in a red wave. I'm going to say it stays just over 10. Now we've got the East Coast. Maine and Vermont, independent senators, but we're going to color those blue as they caucus with the Dems. New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Delaware. Putting those under 10 I think would be too unreasonable. They're going to stay safe. Now we've got the safe states for the Republicans. On a regular night, these are mostly going to go safe anyway, but the ones we would already expect them to get are going to be Utah, Wyoming, North Dakota, the Nebraska Special, Missouri, Indiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, and West Virginia. That's going to be a flip and a pickup. Now some other states we're going to take a look at are going to be Nebraska. This is Deb Fisher and Dan Osborne, the independent candidate. I think she's likely to at least be able to hold on in almost any scenario. Plus, she won by 19 points in the blue wave of 2018. In this, she's easily going to win this comfortably by over 10 points, and it's going to go safe. Now, I still think it would be more narrow than it was 6 years ago, but in this, I think it would probably still be about 12 to 13 points. Then let's look at the critical state of Montana. This is Tester and Sheehy. Trump is going to win this state by way over 10. All Sheehy has to do is not run more than 15 points behind Trump, and he's going to win that Senate seat. In most scenarios, Sheehy is favored in the polling. In this, he's going to win it comfortably, and I think it would just be able to crack double digits. We saw Steve Daines defeat Steve Bullock in 2020, and that was by 10 points. He was a popular governor, so I don't think it's unreasonable that Trump can pull Sheehy over 10 points. That's at least in a red wave scenario, so that's why this is going to go safe. One more safe state for the Republicans is going to be down in the southeast, and that's going to be the Sunshine State of Florida. This is Rick Scott and Debbie Mucarsel Powell. It's hard to underestimate Scott here, given some of his previous narrow wins, plus the GOP results in the midterms, in addition to what we're seeing in the early vote returns. We know Republicans are capable of winning by way over 10, even 15 points here in this state. We saw Ron DeSantis win by 19 a couple of years ago. So in this, I don't think it's unreasonable anymore to think that Rick Scott can crack 10 points. I don't think it would be way over that, but I think there's enough here to put this as safe. Now we'll do the likely states for the Democrats. These are going to be between 5 and 10 points. First in the Southwest, they're going to get New Mexico. It's Martin Heinrich and Nella Domenici. That last name is powerful in this state, but she's a Republican, and this is a moderately blue state, so Heinrich is still going to win it, but I think it would get down to mid-single digits, maybe even 6 points, but that's still enough to put this at likely. Then we can go to the East Coast. First in New Jersey, Andy Kim is expected to take down Curtis Bashaw. Now, Bashaw had that scary moment in the debate where he kind of froze up and hesitated. I don't think that's a huge factor considering the lead of the state, but I think that might prevent this from getting truly competitive, even in a red wave. So in this, it's going to get down under 10, and it's going to go likely. Next, we've got Maryland. This is the big one between Larry Hogan and Angela Alsobrooks. It's so blue of a state that Hogan even getting this under 10, I think, is somewhat of a victory on its own. But I think few people expected him to be able to actually flip this state. Now, he did unexpectedly win for governor in 2014. He was trailing in the polls, and he came out of nowhere and won it. This is a different office. It's a different election. Hogan's easily going to run 15 points ahead of Harris. But considering she might win this state by around 30 points, I think Hogan is still going to come up short, but he would get it down under 10. If he has a really good night, maybe he even gets it down under 7.5. But I don't think there's enough there to take this any lower. It is going to go likely. And then we've got Virginia. This is incumbent Democrat Tim Kaine against Republican challenger Hung Cao. Now, Kaine has been pulling well ahead of Cao for months, so it looks like this one is pretty much off the table for the Republicans, even in this scenario. But you might remember back in 2014, that was Mark Warner and Ed Gillespie. Warner was easily leading in the polls, but on election day, he won by less than 1 point. Now, that might be a fluke. there's no way you can expect that to happen again. But there is an outside chance this could get down under 5 points. But in this scenario, I think it's most reasonable to put this at a mid-single digit likely rating. Now we've got the likely states for the Republicans. First, we're going to do Texas. This is Cruz, and it's all red. I've always said I think Cruz has some likability issues. He's already favored to win this seat on a regular night. In this seat, he's going to win it by even more. Now, I don't think Ted Cruz is as strong as their other senator, John Cornyn. So in this, it's going to get close. I think it would hit 9 points. So it's not quite safe, but it's definitely well into likely territory. One more state for the Republicans. We're going to go into the Midwest. We're going to go to Ohio. This is Bernie Moreno trying to take down incumbent Sherrod Brown. Trump is expected to win the state comfortably. All Moreno has to do is run close to Trump's margin and he'd be able to flip this seat. A lot of people like to debate how much crossover vote there could really be given all the polarization. It is tough to imagine Trump potentially winning the state by 10 points, but then Bernie Moreno only winning it by 0-1. So on a solid night for Moreno, I'm going to say he runs a lot closer to Trump, and he does get this over 5 points. He wasn't the strongest candidate, but given the lean of the state, that's going to be able to just give this a likely rating. Now we'll go through the rest of the states. Lean margins are under 5 points, tilt are 1 point or less. Let's first knock off the Rust Belt states, and I think there's similar commentary about each. So Republicans do have opportunities here, given these are relatively purple states. Wisconsin, I think, is the most purple, and Eric Hovde, the Republican challenger, has done a little bit better than I would have expected. The polls have narrowed up there, as well as in Pennsylvania, where I thought Bob Casey would have been easily favored to win. In Michigan, that's an open seat. In all three of these, the Democrats should theoretically have some sort of an advantage. However, in this scenario, it's a red wave. That means there's going to be a surge of Trump vote that wasn't picked up in the polling. A lot of them are going to come out on election day. Many of them are also going to support the Republican for Senate, and that's going to be enough for all three of these states to flip and go lean for the Republican. I would say the margins in all three here would be about 1 up to maybe 2.5 points at most. Then we've got the Southwest. We've got Nevada. Sam Brown has trailed Jackie Rosen in just about every poll. Some of them he's trailed by double digits, which always seemed like a surprise to me, considering this state should have been relatively competitive. So there could be very late movement in the direction of Brown. That's a possibility. In this scenario, we're going to say that does happen. The rural vote comes out hard for Brown, and the margin for Rosen in Clark County is not where she needs it to be. So that means this state is going to flip, and it's going to go about 1 to 1.5 points for Sam Brown, the Republican. Finally, in Arizona, it's Ruben Gallego and it's Kari Lake. Gallego has consistently led in the polling. Lake is a wild card. She's not a great fit for more moderate voters in the Phoenix suburbs, but this state could very well vote for Donald Trump at the top of the ticket. Kari Lake is very similar to the Trump brand, so it's hard to imagine there being that much crossover vote. But given her polling has been pretty weak so far, I still think it would be a challenge for Lake. But on a great night for the Republicans, I do think she'd be able to win this seat. It's going to be close. It's going to be a tilt margin, probably about 1 point exactly. That's going to be enough to make this state red. So that's it. That would come out to 57 seats for the Republicans, 43 for the Democrats. Pretty much the absolute top of the mountain for the Republicans. It's unlikely, but it's not completely unreasonable either. When Trump's been on the ballot the 2 previous times, he has been known to turn out voters that have not been captured in the polling. So in this scenario, there's going to be that expectation again. Low propensity voters that would never talk to pollsters. They're going to come out in this, and they're also going to support most of these Republican candidates. Now, you could always make some tweaks here and there, but after thinking about it for a while, I think I'm satisfied with this map. It does look like Republicans are likely to have a better night in the Senate than the Democrats, but likely is far from a guarantee. But I think the Republicans winning anything beyond Montana and Ohio would be pure gravy for them. It's reasonable on a regular night to consider they'll flip at least one of the other 5 states. But flipping all 5 does seem very unlikely. But that's it for this scenario, so let me know in the comments. Do you think this is the best reasonable case scenario for the GOP? Or do you think Arizona would be even redder? Do you think New Jersey, Maryland, or Virginia would get even narrower? Do you have a completely different take on this type of scenario? Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.